This week's episode of ClickUp Mastery is sponsored by Scale Time, helping agency owners break the $1 to $3 and $7 million plateaus with systems and processes. You can find out more at scaletime.co. Hi, I am Amalie with Systematic Excellence Consulting, and today I'm going to talk about space and folder structure inside of ClickUp. And what I'm going to show you is just one way of doing it, but the concept that I'm going to talk about, or the way of organizing it, you can really apply to anyone's business. So the main place to begin is you want your place where you keep all of your documents, all of your templates, all of those things, whether it's Google Drive or maybe it's another platform like that. You want that to be set up in a way that is organized and things are easy to find. Then you want your project management tool to reflect that, and using similar naming convention for those folders and spaces. And so along with that, if you have a wiki or intranet, you also want that to be in the same sort of organizational structure as you have your Google Drive and your project management tool. So what I've done is basically I just broke it down to kind of the functions of a business. And this might look differently for other people. This is just one way of doing it. But I really wanted to just touch on the point that the where you have things organized in one place should reflect in other places so that it makes it easier to find things. So here's my little, and I am using the whiteboard view in ClickUp, which is really great. So that's a new one. And I did a video on that last week. So here I'm showing that you have your Google Drive, your wiki and intranet, and your project management tool. So if we're looking at some functions of a business, let's say our main folders on Google Drive are operations, marketing, sales, clients. Okay, let's just say that those are how we've broken the business down. Inside of there might be some folders. So this might be the main folder on Google Drive, and then there might be some folders with, these kinds of names on them. Same thing for marketing, same thing for sales, same thing for clients. And then what we're going to do is we are going to set up ClickUp in the same way. So we're going to have clients, we're going to have operations, marketing, sales, and then I do have home as like a personal space to manage my, personal to-do list or whatever. So if we look at this, then what we want to do is we want to have, so if we just start with operations, so if I come over to operations, I want the folders that I have in there to reflect what I have on Google Drive, meaning I should have an accounting folder, an SOP folder, a team members folder, product development folder, maybe even an admin folder. Depending on whatever you name it on Google Drive, you're going to want to name it the same thing in ClickUp. And now this concept applies to whatever project management tool you're using. How you organize it will depend on the platform because there's constraints for different project management tools. But as closely as you can match it, the better. Okay. And so then you might have lists. So you might have lists over here in accounting, and maybe the lists reflect folder, like subfolders in Google Drive. So maybe you have an operations folder, then you have an accounting folder, and then within accounting, you might have another folder for tracking employee hours or contractor hours. Now, not everything will be reflective. For example, when we track our team's hours, we use the dashboard to pull the reports and things like that. So there really isn't something on Google Drive for that. But for team member information, right? So for team member information, there is. So there is a team member folder within the operations folder on Google Drive. And so that is reflected. So there's a team member onboarding folder and a current team member folder with all of their information in there on Google Drive. So it's named the same thing and we can easily find it. Another one is product development. You know, some people may put this in marketing. We put it in operations. That's how we kind of break it down. So in here, we have, this is how we organize, and I just did one example of our CRM template bundle that we have, and then we put the links to the different pages of the funnel right in here. So we have a database for that. You could have a spreadsheet on Google Drive that has that, and maybe that's in a folder. So the folder would be, the main folder is operations, then you have another folder within that one called product development, and then you have another folder inside of there that could have each of the products that you sell has a folder. And so then you can see here, we've linked the asset folder here. So this folder has all of the assets for that funnel, any of the PDFs that we've put together, any of the images, all of that is in that folder, and it's called the CRM template bundle asset folder. And so again, that's just kind of showing you how to make sure that the naming convention is the same and the structure is as closely matching as possible. Now, some things might not be able to match exactly, or maybe there's something that lives, you know, for example, the links that we've put here, maybe that just lives in ClickUp, but there isn't something like that on Google Drive, and that's fine. Or maybe there is, and maybe you have it in both places, and that's up to you. Now, what you could do, if you didn't want to do the links this way, you could do embed a spreadsheet that's called, you know, the product quick links, or whatever you would actually call the spreadsheet, and then we could embed a Google sheet right here, and then it would live there versus living in this way here that I have it. Okay, so again, we're going to want to match it up. So for marketing, if I go back over here for the main part of marketing, you know, we have content, we have our media one sheet, marketing strategy documents. Now, we might not have our media one sheet in ClickUp, right? And maybe it just lives as a Google Doc, but we could have a place where we have links for those things. So in marketing, we're going to have our content management. So I made a folder for this. This was actually from a previous video I did. So we'll just archive that because we don't need it right now. But say we have content management. That's part of marketing. This is where we're going to manage all of our content production for our business, right? And then maybe we have, maybe we have a folder, let's see, where it could be a, marketing, I don't know. I'm just thinking about, like, if you wanted to do marketing materials, maybe, I don't know, let's call it marketing materials. And in there, now that would mean that we have a folder on Google Drive within the main marketing folder. We have a folder that's called marketing materials. And then maybe there's a list, that's called, we could just say templates, maybe it's marketing templates. Oops. Okay. And so then we might have some links to, this is the media, slash the one sheet. Maybe it's our branding assets, something like that, and then you have links to those over here. You add the custom field for the URL, and maybe then you have just the asset folder. So the link to the actual Google Doc that is the media, or the the one sheet for media opportunities. And then maybe it's the folder for the branding asset, something like that. And then, sales is another function of the business. So for that, maybe we have the CRM. And then again, I can go back over here and I can look at, okay, for sales, so we'll have like our affiliate programs, our links, and CRM. So in sales, you might have a new folder, and maybe we call it, affiliate or affiliate, I don't know, database or something, whatever, call it whatever. So it depends on what you have it what you call it on Google Drive. And maybe this list is, affiliate sales or affiliate links, and then you can put a list of the affiliate products that you sell, the login details to the different programs that you sell, that you might be offering or whatever. Or if you have a spreadsheet with that, then again, just embed that view. But what the main point is to have your Google Drive or whatever you use to hold all of your documents and things like that. You want it to be reflected on your project management or in your project management tool, and then again reflected on your wiki or intranet if that's something that you have in your business. And so you want it to match to make it easier to find things. And I know that it can maybe feel a little redundant to have pulling links from Google Drive and putting them in here. But what you want it to be is just easier to find things. If somebody can come in and update or work on something without having to leave ClickUp and go find it on Google Drive, I am saving my team time by getting them everything they need in one place. I think it's like estimated that we like waste 2 hours a week looking for things. So the easier we can make it on us and on our team to find things and to get to work and to locate or figure out where they need to save something or find a document that they need or a template they need, the better it is. One last thing I want to mention as far as for operations. So for SOPs, what I recommend doing here is in the list, you could break the SOPs, have a list for each of the different, so you could have like operations SOPs, marketing SOPs, sales SOPs. You could break it up that way. But then inside of the list, you could have we could just call it SOPs, and then if there's some that need updates, you could put like need updated, right? And then so if you need to take action on some of those SOPs to update it, you could put them there. You could even add a ready for review, something like that. But let's just say we're gonna do this. So I'm just gonna show empty statuses, and then I want to flip this over so it's at the top. And so then maybe what you do is maybe you have the SOP name here, and then you do the custom field with a website, and you have the link. This is maybe the SOP link. And then maybe you also have a website of, the video link or something like that, where maybe you haven't had time to type out all of the the actual SOP, but you were able to record a video. You can pop that video link there, whether you used Loom or Zoom or something like that. Put the link there, and it can live there until you get the transcript of the video, and then you're able to organize it into an SOP. You can also put the folder. So again, we would have an operations main folder, then we have an SOP folder inside of there, and then we might have folders inside of there that are named operations SOP, marketing SOP, sales SOP, something like that. And then you can put the links, maybe you can put a website of, main SOP folder or something like that. And so then you would have the link to the Google folder that holds all of the all of the SOPs. And you can use tags. So you could do operations, marketing, sales, something like that to help organize it. So if you had, SOP number 2, like this, and let's say that this one is a marketing one, and the one up here is operations, and then you could have, and let's say that this one is, what do we use? Our sales. Okay. So then you could have it organized in this way if you wanted it to all be in one place. But if you want them to be separate, if you wanted to have a list for each one, so if this is, let's say this is the marketing SOPs, and let's say then we would have operations SOPs. You might put it that way. And then if that's the case, then you wouldn't necessarily need the labels for that. But you could still label them if you wanted to. But again, that's just one way of doing it. You could also utilize this as the main one. So you could say this is the marketing SOP Google folder. And then you would just put the link here to the folder at the top, so then it's accessible up here, and then you could delete this. You wouldn't then need that that custom field. So that's just another way of doing it. And then when you have inside of your marketing area, right? So if this is the marketing SOPs, what I'm going to probably do is I'm going to grab this. I'm going to go into marketing, and at the top of each of these lists, I'll probably put the link to the actual SOP, or I can, marketing SOP list. Now, this may again seem a little redundant, but it makes it easier for the person working on this, or the team members, to just click on this to find what they need versus having to go look for it, right? They can just click on it because it's right there. And yeah, okay, so that is folder space and folder structure. And again, this is just one way of doing it. I wanted to at least give you somewhere to start from, somewhere to work from. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I do read all of them and respond. And I can always make an additional video to, to explain things differently, or, whatever. So feel free to leave the comments, or leave questions and ideas in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. There is a link for Buy Me a Coffee, which would help support our production of this free content. Every little bit helps. We have a full team that supports the production of this. So if you feel like you enjoy this content, feel free to buy us a coffee and support the production of it. And make sure you subscribe to catch our future videos. All right. Thank you. My name is Amalie. I'm with Systematic Excellence Consulting, and thank you so much for watching.